Today, we live in a world where we can play PS1 titles on almost anything. Your computer, the PlayStation systems, your mobile phone, even the Xbox Series S and X allow for PS1 emulation in 2021. We also have many more emulators to choose from, with new software fixes to change the way the games play and possibly make them look almost new again. With this, it's time to see how ePSXe fares against one of the best PS1 emulators released in the past few years. That's right, Duckstation. When I first got into emulation, PS1 games were my main priority as I really wanted to have easier access to my library of games. After some searching, ePSXe was recommended to me and the rest is history. For 8 long years, I stuck with ePSXe and kept up to date with all its updates, and once I got a more powerful PC, I started upscaling the graphics. Safe to say, it was bliss to see what was possible back then. Today, however, it's 2021, and many new emulators for PlayStation have burst onto the scene. Duckstation for me takes the cake. It's so easy to use, and pretty much anyone can get it up and running, even on Android devices. The question is, how do the two fare when it comes to emulating PS1 titles? To find out, I loaded up a few games on both emulators using the best possible settings at 1080p and began testing. Here are the settings I used on both emulators. Duckstation is, of course, using its perspective correction features, and ePSXe is making do with the peak drivers I found some years ago. Both emulators will be at 1080p resolution just to make the difference even more pronounced. Just to let you folks know, I had to use ePSXe version 1.9 as version 2.0.5 wasn't working for me. Several Windows 10 updates have broken the emulator on my end. Even attempting to reinstall it didn't solve the problem. Luckily, graphically both versions are the same, outside of some features such as overclocking, which is not available on version 1.9. Hopefully you can forgive me for the shortcoming, and now let's see how both emulators fare for playing PS1 titles. Let's try Zero Divide 2 first. This 3D fighting game looked great on real hardware, and hopefully the same is true on emulation. For the most part, the two look pretty similar, although I do notice immediately that Duckstation's nearest neighbour filter looks sharper than what ePSXe is doing with the image. This is personal preference territory, but I also notice less shaking textures with Duckstation, thanks to that perspective correction technology the emulator has. I think both do a good job overall, and which one you choose will be up to you. Of course, the settings can be changed on both if you want to change the way the game looks on either emulator. I know Gran Turismo 2 like the back of my hand, and this time the difference between the two emulators is much more noticeable. As before, Duckstation has a sharper image, but the perspective correction feature is much more noticeable here. Just look at the vehicle in question. Duckstation transforms it and it looks like a very early PS2 car model in comparison to what ePSXe does. This is one example where ePSXe really falls behind Duckstation. Pretty stellar technology on display via Duckstation. Tobal 2 uses the high-res 480i mode on PlayStation, so let's see how the emulators do with this game. Both emulators do a good job, honestly. Yes, Duckstation is sharper, and the perspective correction settings do improve the character models and the floor textures, but it's not so dramatic that ePSXe gets left behind completely. I'll let you guys decide which one you think looks best to you. Now this is a real difference. Colin McRae Rally 2 really shows off how Duckstation can transform the gaming experience. Just look at it. Not only are there less image errors compared to ePSXe, the perspective correction settings just completely transform the game. On ePSXe, the PlayStation system architecture flaws are running rampant here, whereas on Duckstation, most of it is cleared up. It actually now resembles the PC port of the game, which is pretty special. Duckstation is worth it alone just to see how far we've come in PlayStation emulation. Another game that benefits from Duckstation's features is Jarrett and Labonte's Stock Car Racing, or Tucker World Touring Cars as we call it here. Although not as dramatic as Colin McRae Rally 2, the difference is still apparent and definitely helps Duckstation in its battle against ePSXe. Both work and look good, but Duckstation gets the nod thanks to its sharper image quality and more pleasing texture quality. Demolition Racer also benefits from Duckstation's enhancements. Look how wobbly the textures are here on ePSXe. It's noticeable right from the start on practically everything in sight. Duckstation corrects this and it looks so much better. Obviously, this wobbling of textures is part of the PlayStation charm, so you do lose that in getting rid of the effect, but come on, this is pretty damn great. Duckstation so far just seems to do everything right. Will this continue? Let's try a 2D fighting game, The King of Fighters 98. It seems as if the enhancements from Duckstation have no effect other than to sharpen up the game's presentation. Whether you like the sharper look or the filtered look on games like this is up to you. I love sharp pixels personally, but some of you will like the filtered look of ePSXe. Of course, Duckstation can also do this if you want a similar look there. Both emulators do a good job overall with this game. Call this a tie for me. How about Marvel Superheroes? Pretty much the same result as before. There's slightly less errors in the Duckstation emulation and it's sharper, but overall both do a good job with this game, and which you prefer image quality wise will be down to personal preference. The last game we'll take a look at before the montage is Buster Groove 2. Duckstation is put to good use here, and you can see it easily outshines ePSXe thanks not only to its enhancement of the graphics, but also the game doesn't stutter or stumble at any point. Don't forget, this is made by the same individuals that made the fantastic Dolphin emulator for the GameCube and Wii. Alright, I did play a few more games, so let's see the rest in a montage. Also, listen to the sound of the two emulators. Which one sounds better? You folks let me know in the comment section below.
Bingo.
Always be aware of your surroundings. Stop and take a look around. Head towards the marker and perform each exercise a few times. Moving on to the... A ninja must remain unseen. You must be able to move while concealed. Roll from a crouched position to pass unseen.
Well folks, I think for most of you, that was pretty conclusive. Duckstation practically beats ePSXe in almost every way. It's sharper, has more features, and perspective correction can transform some games completely. It's also easy to run and gets updated frequently, unlike ePSXe. So why should you use ePSXe? I mean, you can play games from a real PS1 disc, which is still a feature I want on Duckstation, and ePSXe has been around for a while, so you can customize it with different drivers. For most of you, that isn't close to being enough of a reason to use ePSXe anymore. It's utterly outclassed by Duckstation and other more recent PS1 emulators out there. It falls behind, and with update version 2.0.5 being the last at this time, ePSXe's future looks bleak. What do you folks think of the two emulators? Let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you all again next time.